Alrighty, so I'm Robert, this is Michael, and we're going to basically be going over this week's
Mhm.
progress. Let me just update your little title card so you're on the screen. Okay, cool. So, this week has been pretty productive in terms of basically the amount of stuff that we've been basically just kind of getting in to get Pandemic back to the place of full replayability. So, we've been basically just kind of slicing it for the last couple of weeks into digestible chunks. You guys have been seeing us play it on YouTube. We've been playing it on the Discord with people, on the public channels. It's been fun. It's been really exciting as things have been coming in. So what I want to do is I want to highlight some of the newer stuff that we've worked on this week. Show off some new pandemic gameplay with the people that are kind of waiting. They're updating their games right now. And then we'll be showing that aspect as well. So you guys can see like real live gameplay and whatnot. So first things first, we're going to show off some of the progress that we've had with the helicopter. So let me go ahead and load this up, and we're going to go into a test map. So we have right here the Apache, and we're going to throw in some of the other newer versions as well. So we'll grab, let's see, we'll put in the Merlin. We're going to go ahead and grab the VTOL. And those are the new additions in the game. So let me load in. Give it a second to load the assets asynchronously. Okay, so a big push, as we've been saying, is getting the remaining of the helicopters in so that they're fully playable and they're functioning, and getting in the other UI elements that have been missing from Legacy. And that was, let me just fix the game audio so you guys can hear that. Hold on. Give me 1 second. I just realized there's no audio in there. There we go. Now you guys can hear the helicopters. So Derek has been chipping away, basically going and just getting the Osprey, the Chinook, and the Apache in, setting up their weapons. So we're going to go kill Chelsea with the Apache. So it'll take off. It's going to do its thing. She's hiding behind this wall. It's going to lay into her. Now, this is something that we were working on last week, so it's going to be in today's build. She's dead already. And basically, or maybe she's not dead. Oh, she's about to be dead. And basically, we still are working on this undergun right here because it needs to target independently like it did in Legacy. This is going to be an early incubator version of the Apache. It'll probably be fully done going into Monday. He's going to need probably at least another day and just kind of polish it up, work with the VFX guy to make sure everything's firing in all cylinders and all of the like things are in lockstep and synchronized in terms of like it arcing properly, and then the independent targeting and the fire rates, because a lot of these units are not going to be fully balanced in terms of like Michael hasn't gone hands-on fully. Some of the VFX things might be trailing behind, but it's more so you guys can go in and play it, see the progress, see we're actually putting stuff in, and then that way going into Monday, Tuesday of next week, the other artists on the team will have some time to kind of tweak it and listen to y'all's feedback in terms of like, oh, that's too easy, this is kind of broken, X, Y, and Z. And then as always, you can move to the helipad, to the radio, and resupply it. I'm definitely going to be increasing the radius of the helipad to resupply. We are looking into a revised helipad asset. I kind of have to work out the logistics of that with Dimitri to get one that's smaller, but still kind of accommodate the different variations. We want something more box oriented, that's more user friendly to how Unreal Engine does navigation, where everything is typically more like, you can see when you have like crazy shapes like that, it's not perfect. And like with this, it gets more expensive if you have to cut those parts out, because then you have to break it up into small individual chunks that mean like more collision fidelity, which means it's more expensive to render it in the world, or like in terms of navigation and everything else. So we'll be looking at some changes to shrink the size of the helipad, make it a little bit more boxy, and get that implemented, especially for when we get to civilian evacuation. The next thing is the Osprey. So if I go over here and try and land it, and this is one of the things that I have to get Derek to sneak in before he works on custom game options, is that we're going to be getting rid of it. So when you press C right now, it just lands in place. But I saw this in a recent review on Steam, and then I've been talking to people on Discord about it. But one of the biggest things I want to make it to where, one of the last things that we do for the helicopters is make it to where the same way that the rappelling works, where like if I land little Timmy here, and I tell this engineer to go inside, and then I take off, like that circle. I want to take an outline of the helicopter, like a hologram, like this move preview, and put that on the ground, and then do the colors to represent if you can land there or not. So then that way you don't have to sit here and be like, well, there's a fence there, so I'm gonna press. Oh wait, it might go, but it's gonna, that time it worked. But typically, you guys have seen me in previous streams where they bounce or they do that. So that's something that we need to kind of rectify. It's been an issue in Legacy. It's obviously an issue in the rebuild. So that's something that I'll be working on with Derek to kind of get situated and get planned out next week, is doing something like this, having the hologram, and then it validates the point like you're placing a structure into the world. And then Bob's your uncle. And then the last thing is a Chinook. There's nothing really crazy to see there. It's more so just we got the little Garrison UI here. And then Derek's been basically working on prototyping the Garrison UI down here in the details panel. So you can see it here. I wonder if that's a bug. Let me check something. I think I just discovered a bug I'm going to have to report. So if I click here and I land and I tell him to go in, is that going to bug out? No, but it's not showing the full quantity. So I'm going to have to investigate that because it's only showing the first 4. That's odd. We'll look into that. But you can figure, like, we wanted more ways to, like, if you're over here and you have a Merlin selected, you can remember who's in the Merlin without having to physically look at it. So it's something that we wanted to experiment with this time around. You're also going to notice that pilots actually show their vitals on the actual helicopters. Because one of the things that we were getting from feedback and reports on Discord from people playing the game is that when we added the gas towers, your pilots could get turned. The people inside the helicopters could get turned. And the idea is that they didn't understand why their helicopters were crashing and burning at times. Because, like, you can't continually go into a gas zone and not expect for them to basically, like, incur a risk. Like, okay, we got to pull them out, let them refill their oxygen meters, basically heal them, get them back in. And there were some bugs with the Garrison system that we had to fix over the week. People were reporting on Steam and on Discord of different issues of, like, the pilots being able to get in after you added a weapon. Like, for example, if I go over here and I land it, and once it loads, I can choose the Guardian. And then I have a little, like, Vulcan gun under the VTOL, just like what we had in Legacy, right under the carriage, right there. And that just independently targets, because this is just meant as like a step up from the Chinook, but it can't transport vehicles long term. It's not nearly as armored, so it's a little bit more fragile. It's just meant to get in, get out really fast. The Chinook is a little bit more bulky than this baby in terms of gameplay. And then the other thing we put in was the jet mode back again, so that as it moves, if you turn on jet mode, the rotors are supposed to go down. Let's see if it's going to do it correctly. There it goes. And then it'll speed up and then go down. So I need to actually go into a bigger map. I'll show that very briefly, and then we'll move on to the next area. So for the sake of demonstration, I'm going to load into the HMV. Where is it? Blind. Void. RTS. Ah, there you are. So we're going to load into the map. I'm going to show you really quickly what it looks like, and then we're going to move on to the big kahuna, which is basically the pandemic progress we've had this week and some of the things that I wanted to open the floor for discussion, because this is going to be very important in terms of basically expectations and how people want Chelsea to play, and where I stand in terms of basically things that I want to fix this time around when it comes to her being a fucking idiot. Is the simplest way of wording it. In terms of basically, like, she was just incompetent. She just kind of meandered around. She just was, like, it was just horrible to fight her. And it's horrible to fight her in the rebuild because you figure we haven't touched upon her yet. So one of the things that I wanted to do is that now that I'm working on the Juggernaut and I'm working to basically polish him up, I'm going to be moving on to the Chelsea around Monday, Tuesday, and next week. And I'm going to show you guys what I have for the Juggernaut when we get to that section for the pandemic stuff. But for right now, I'm going to just put this little guy on the tarmac on the LHA6 on the Horde map, so I can really quickly load in and show you guys. And at the same time, I'm going to write down a quick note, because I want to see if I load everyone into that LHA6, is it going to update that bottom right details panel? Because that's a visual bug that's going to need to be fixed going into Monday. But we'll see. So give it a quick second. It's going to load in. It has to stream in all the assets and load up all the maps and just get everything ready for play. So it might take another, yep, there it goes. So we're going to load in. We're going to grab these guys. We're going to put them in there. That was an interesting little shift that it did there. That was probably a micro shift to basically make sure that it was on the deck properly. Yeah, so it is a visual bug. It's only showing the first 4. That's goddamn-tastic. So we'll fix that. So anyway, let me click over here so I can demonstrate the jet mode. Press the associated hotkey, and then I'll demonstrate that super quickly before we move on to the next area. It's about double the speed of the Sparrow. But you figure that's your quick little get in, get out system. Let's see. We're still tweaking. Yeah, it's gonna. Oh no, it fixed it. It is beveling. It is going around living here and there, so that's pretty good. We are still working on some issues with the helicopter pathfinding when it comes to this area over here, and I'll show you guys why. Is that we need to kind of figure out tech-wise. There are 2 navigation layers. There's the helicopter navigation layer, and then there's what everyone else uses below. And what everyone uses above is what the helicopters use when they get the cruise altitude height. We can't put it too high because then nobody could hurt them. Spitters, Juggernauts, X, Y, and Z. So we have to break the immersion and make it a little bit lower. But one of the things that you'll notice this time around is that they understand to a certain degree, like those buildings, it's building around it. So they have a better understanding of like, oh, I'm going to hit this building. Where in Legacy, we were using a series of crazy traces and like micro adjustments that basically like nudge them around. Like that, where it kind of like, it understands like, oh, I need to bank, you know, kind of deal. So that's one of the things that we set out this time to do, but it presented a new problem. The new problem is that when you have verticality like this, when you jump from this ground height to that ground height, it makes it more likely to run into trees and other stuff like that because it's not properly accounting for every new like general like Z height where this is pre-measured at a certain height. Is that this should still be relative to that new height. And then as you go up to this ramp, same thing. And then when you reach the new altitude, same thing. So it's one of those things where we have to kind of figure that out going into next week. We're about to start a very extensive bug hunt. We're like basically going into next week, Pandemic will be like really, really close to like being like, I'm happy with it. It's firing on all cylinders. The Juggernaut, Chelsea's in there. And then I'm going to be working on the save system. And then after the save system, the next thing for me is going in and hunting down bugs, performance, anything that's still weird at this point. Replication, desyncs, like that kind of stuff. So just keep in mind there's going to be like a triage, or I guess you could say like a adjustment period after all the new mechanics and systems have come in while Derek's working on the ground vehicles. So that's the biggest thing. Is that I'm trying to get the game to a point where Derek is able to transition over to the ground vehicles in the next, say, week. After we get a little bit more nuance on the helicopters, we get a little more bug fixes for the Apache, and then he starts the Hummer, the Ajax, sometime next week, ideally. If everything goes to plan, crossing my fingers, basically custom game options has to get in. Nothing crazy sprouts up on the helicopters to where I have to pull them away. And that I'm able to fix this by myself in isolation for the issues you're seeing here. Where they're just way too low. Because the Z height has changed and there's a weird like quirk with changing the navigation height dynamically over time in the Unreal Engine. It doesn't handle it that well. So it's one of those things where we're going to have to engineer something entirely custom to fill that gap, like a slope or some kind of angle, and make sure there's a proper like transition or handoff at that point. So we're aware of it. We're working at it. Just, you know, bear with us a little bit longer. We're just trying to iron out like those like you can see it here. It's like the trees. Like they're going around the trees. No, the trees aren't even generating nav. No, they are. They're just not big enough. Because what's on the ground is off here. So you figure we could probably maybe try changing the tree collision. We probably will have to do that now because you can see not all of them are like form fitting, and all of these branches have collision. So technically, if you hit that, it's gonna like they're not gonna blow up, but they're gonna recoil and slow down. So it's gonna affect your unit's combat effectiveness. But But anyhow, let's keep it rolling. There's more to go over. We have a very short time before we get to the playtest. So you guys have seen the VTOL's Osprey, the Osprey turret. You guys have seen the Apache. Now we're gonna move on to the other system, which I should have probably, it would have been too much to look at. But one of the other things that we did is I'm gonna play again one more time. And I'm gonna show we got the activity log in. And we got a build login because oh my God, we would have like 10 players, 12 players on Discord. And people would be like, where is the money going? Who keeps spending all the money? Why can't I build this? I wanted to build this operator. I wanted to build this wall. We have no money for anything. And it would be like, it would just kind of like, it would be kind of toxic, real talk. Like, so one of the things that we set out to do last week was put in the activity log and then start to get Pandemic back to a point where you could essentially like have to actually guess where Chelsea is. I'm going to be changing some of the visuals for no infection vectors detected and change that to where it's more of an active percent of the level of infection in that zone. So that way you know to go in there and kind of scour it of like it didn't really work out because these two numbers are basically the same thing but they're in inverse. This needs to go back. It's a nice experiment but didn't work out how I intended. This needs to go back to just saying what is the level of current infection in that zone? 5%, 10%, 20%? Okay, great. Then I know I need to send in kill teams to just burn out the whole zone before they kill the rest of the surviving population. And on this early build, no infection vectors is going to change at around 20%. Going into next week, you're no longer going to be able to see the infection. And we're like right now, I can see she's building over here. I'm going to be turning off these debugs. These were only here just so that people in playtesting can quickly tell me something's broken, something's not working. I'll be tying it to some console commands so if people really want to get into the nitty gritty, they can. But you can see that we have the news ticker back in. And I have to put in the local 2D sound again, but you can mute if people don't like the sound. But every 15 seconds or so, it's going to basically update you on the state of the world. Like every zones report in to Cirque in terms of like, oh, there's no disturbances here. There are dogs missing here. Random dead bodies are showing up in this zone. You might want to investigate. So in that way, it's not just, she's in this zone or that zone. Technically, you could also figure it out just by looking at the numbers decreasing. As you can see, Bayfront surviving population is decreasing. But then that gives you an idea of like, if you're not like, because no one's going to be zoomed out like this the whole time. So the idea would be, is that like if I click here, it'll jump me there and be like, oh, there's nothing going on there. Now, some of these text messages are going to change and they're just early placeholders. But like if I slow-mo 5, and then I'm going to take Chelsea, I'm going to take these guys and park them off the thing. Actually, I'll do slow-mo 10. It's dangerous, but screw it. But like you figure, as she spreads with the gas tower and the pods and everything else, then essentially these messages will become more cryptic. And then once everyone in the zone dies, it'll say that's the last report. We have nothing else to report. Everyone's dead in that zone. It's gone quiet. Like you figure. So at that point, they're going to stop. The Cirque will stop sending reports to you to basically let you know like what's going on. It'll just send you an end message. We have to get the login. That's going to be coming. And one of the things that I do want to show super duper quickly, and I'll show this, we'll see it again in the co-op session, is actually, let me move over here. And we're just going to repel really quickly. And I'm just going to show the new log system that we put in and show you guys where to find it. So if I tell them to repel here and tell them to repair there, we're going to speed it up for sake of I'm impatient. And then if I build something, like a spotlight, you're going to see that, where it goes. Now when I go to visual options and activity log, spotlight, $300 by you. And then if I throw a grenade, assault use frag grenade by you. So if I click over here, it'll jump you to it. If I go to spotlight, it'll jump you to that. Now it seems to be that there's, for some reason, there's supposed to be an activity log here. It's probably a bug where it doesn't show up in multiplayer. So it's probably an on rep or something missing. So I'm got a single player. It's probably, yeah, it looks like there's a bug where it only shows up in multiplayer. Is it supposed to be a log here, an activity feed? It's not showing up. We'll fix that. I'm going to log that right now. But you figure anything you do is going to show up in that log. Your friends, and everyone's color coded when they join the game. So when we jump into a co-op session, which the 3 or 4 guys are going to demonstrate all these features live in a second, um, it'll log the last 25 items. So if I go over here and I'm like, wait, who just spent that money? Click here, it'll say the person's name and the color that they have assigned. Like the color that you see on your operators, basically, is the color that you'll see here. Because everyone that joins the game, or their helicopter color, or when you look at someone and they have that color on their text, you'd be like, oh, you just blew all this money on abilities. You just blew all this money on grenades. You bought that Osprey. You upgraded that weapon. So the idea is in that way it has a little more transparency for people to be trolling and people to actually like know like what's going on in the game. So the next aspect that we're going to show for progress we've had this week is something very brief, but I'll just show it really quickly. Is I'm going to go into one of my test maps. So one of the big issues that we set out to kind of fix with the rebuild, yeah, I can show this one first. We'll show the Juggy. So if I spawn in, I've been basically working on this Juggernaut AI. He definitely has some visual quirks that I need to iron out going into Monday. But I put these street lights in here because I was prototyping basically how he was going to handle when he throws a car, making sure there's not an obstacle in the way. We were having an issue with that yesterday. We were playtesting it on Discord. Is that he would throw something and then it would hit a street light in front of you. What we did is we put a lot of emphasis on his personality. So when he first sees someone, he's going to pound the ground and it'll actually shake your camera if you're nearby. If you're an operator, same thing. And that lets you know that he's kind of acknowledged you're there and he's like, oh, I'm going to kill you. So then at that point, he'll engage. He's doing his trace to try and throw a rock. You can also see that this is the bug I was talking about. Or let's see if he does it. Yeah, okay. So like that's the bug I'm talking about that I have to fix, where his visuals are broken. Where like sometimes when he like is at a distance, he's gonna connect and throw the car correctly, but something's going on that I have to debug going into Monday, but he doesn't always face the proper direction. Now the other thing you'll notice is he does those spear traces. So if you're in those green connects when he does that, you're probably dead. And you figure, yeah, he's dead as fuck. Now, that was the one thing. Now, the other thing I'm going to show is let me delete some of these guys. We're going to put him right here. And we're going to put this right here. And we're going to demonstrate his other ability that I put in. And let me delete that acid pool. It burns you. I was testing a dot for balance reasons. And you can just place them in the level and then they'll just dot you. But let's see if he does it. Oh my god. Okay, hold on. I might have to put a little bit more in, as he has another attack, but he kind of favors that one. Let's see if he's going to do it. There he goes. No, maybe not. No, he's doing it. Oh, come on. Not the car. Oh, no. So, you figure, let me see. Hold on. I'm going to have to put more in. Because you actually have to fight him, because I put a percent to it, and I might have put that percent too low. Okay, so let me try that again. We're going to put that there, we're going to put that there, we're going to put that there. We're going to move those guys there. Oh, I might put too many in. We're definitely tweaking the balance in terms of basically the amount of like range for some of these attacks. So just keep in mind that's going to be changing here and there. Let me cut down the amount of infected. Keep in mind the Juggernaut's resistances aren't set up correctly. So he's going to die a little bit easily when you actually focus him down. Looks like he's not playing nicely and actually doing his attack that he should be doing. Is he has a ground slam, but he's prioritizing his other one, ironically, which is annoying. Actually, you know what? Let me do this. For the sake of time, let me put them in God mode and see if he does it. Yeah, he's not doing it. Okay, I'm going to have to investigate that. It looks like he was about... There he goes. Okay, there we go. That's what I was trying to show. Is that when you have a huge concentration of units in an area, I'm going to have to tweak those numbers. I've been working on this guy for the last 2 or 3 days, so there's going to be some issues. I'm still working on bug fixing him going into Monday. But the idea is that you figure he has an AoE slam that will basically stun your units in that area. Definitely have to figure out why they're able to shoot early. But the idea is that like you figure you have to constantly keep moving. Now the interesting part is that I didn't even realize people didn't know about this, but Winters and the Spec Ops have a flashbang. So if you catch him at just the right moment when he's throwing a car, like this, it'll hit his head and knock him and do that. And then the car lands on the ground, and it basically is a ragdoll object. Technically, if it lands on you, you're fucking dead. But, you know, at least you stopped him from throwing the car. That's a fun bug. So you figure the idea is that if you're an operator on the ground and you're playing oh, I got him too late. Yeah, but I still stunned him. But the idea is that if you're an operator playing on the ground and you're able to like do that, you can do it as RTS. So you have a lot of options to basically be able to like stun him and incapacitate him to a certain degree. Sorry, drop that. Oh fuck, I was too late. Well, at least I stunned him to die. So that's the first thing I want to show is the incubator early version of the Juggy. I'm going to be working on him more and more going into Monday because this is, again, 2 days of work. I need to spend at least another 24 hours on him minimal to get him to a point where I'm like happy. The next thing is the answer to the builders. So in Legacy and in the current version, standard infected are the ones that build the pods, the gas towers, the walls, the defenses, but you could, like, it wasn't very obvious. Like, it was kind of weird. Because every other RTS game has a building in it. So we got an infected drone that basically runs around and builds. So we're going to put him in. And we're going to cut down the amount of the amount of circ, so he doesn't get lit up immediately. Didn't mean to delete that. And let's go get him. So we're going to grab the builder. And these little guys are going to be running around the map, basically building. They're actually quite strong when it comes down to it, if you're on solo combat. And he will basically bleed you dry. I'm still working on some of the distances, but the idea is that he can stun one of your units and incapacitate them and kill them. The only way of breaking that is to kill him. So you figure if I had, say, a couple other Winters, and I tell him to hold fire, I'll have him pick whichever one he wants to pick to eat on. So he's going to pick her. Oh, okay. Now we're going to shoot him off. So if you're playing solo, you're just kind of exploring the map, and you're not really paying attention, he could basically just wreck you. So there's an issue there where he's trying to focus a little too much, so we're going to have to fix that. But the idea is that you figure you're going to have to focus him down and get him off. Potentially, we're going to have to probably put a little bit more stun locking on him. I don't know why he's moving there, so I'm going to have to look into that, because he's trying to attack you, but he can't. So I'll have to tweak that. But just keep in mind that like this is one of the new enemy types that we're kind of experimenting with in the build. There's definitely going to be some changes here and there as we get y'all's feedback of seeing him in the world. But he's mostly a non-combatant. He's armored just enough to be able to get to a point, build a pod, build a gas tower, kill himself in the process, and then basically rinse and repeat for other structures. Michael is going to be pretty much the one that's in charge of balance for these guys. So tag him as you're playing on Discord of like, hey, this happened. I don't know about this. These units should be a little bit more effective. Now the Juggernaut and this guy are brand new. And some of them are definitely like, we're going to be looking, like we watch you guys when you play in Discord. Like we'll go and we'll watch you guys for like 3, 4 hours, 5 hours. We might mute our mic, but we'll sit in the room, have you guys up on one of our monitors as we're doing game design, and we'll just like, oh, that's broken. Oh, that's weird. And then sometimes we do. I don't know why I say sometimes. But we'll sit in the room and just talk to you for hours. So we want to hear what you guys have to say. We want to hear the feedback on these guys. They're early versions. It's going to free the first public test of them. So here be dragons. They're probably going to kick a lot of people's asses. Because you figure the game got a lot harder over the last couple of days. Now, the next thing I want to show, just really briefly, is what Dimitri has been working on with the structured explosions. So let me go to my test map, and really quickly, I'm just going to build some structures and just to show some quick explosions, and then we're going to move on to the next thing we did this week. So those are kind of big. We're going to be getting a less bombastic version for the walls, but the idea is that everything kind of leaves a charring mark. They have fires, and we wanted to make it to where atmospheric wise, you can see those from far away, and we're gonna be playing with the smoke. So then that way, if you're playing as operator, you're playing as RTS, you're looking in a direction, you'd see a smoke plume in the distance. You're like, what's going on with my fob? Or like, let's say you put someone else in charge. I'm gonna make a quote to Lost World. It's gonna be a sin. Put someone else in charge, like Phoenix, and then you turn around and your whole base is on fire. Now you have a visual aid. Because now you're gonna be like, oh, why is there smoke in the distance? What are you doing, Phoenix? You were in charge of that base. Sorry, Phoenix, I had to use you as an example again. He's never gonna live down that day we played a co-op session with him. But that would be the general idea, is we're experimenting with those little smoke plumes and just kind of getting that set up. So I thought it's gonna be cool to kind of add some atmosphere to the world. We'll play with the durations. We'll get y'all's feedback and just make sure that it's not too costly. But I love that kind of stuff for this atmospheric storytelling if you're not physically looking in the area. So a small little change that went in. I already showed the biomass and that when infection towers and pods and all that blow up, they blow up into like a blob of blood now. So I'm not going to show that again. We went over that last week. You can see that when you play. The next thing is we added the pilot to the helipad. That's trivial. I already showed that. I already showed the new mini map indirectly. Kills work on the helicopters and turrets now, and they add to your money. So that's a nice little change that got fixed from Legacy that never actually did a thing. Let's see. Is there anything else before we get into the main thing? Oh shit! Yeah, right. Okay, let me show that super duper quickly. So if I grab him, one of the things that you'll notice is everyone has footsteps again, from like they did in Legacy, and we ended up making it. Actually, let me put someone in that actually has an ability. So I love this. And this is really cool for immersion too. If people like actually want to get into the close to the ground and watch their units fight, or maybe if just someone's playing an RTS or even just playing as an operator, if they have lines that they say out into the world, you can actually physically hear those lines as an operator or as an RTS player. So when someone activates, say, the Heavy's Fire Up ability, you'll hear him yell out into the world like spray and pay, or like, like the sniper line that the sniper says when he's going to snipe someone. So like, let's say I go to like, this guy's the best example, is that if I click on him, I have to be fast enough, sadly, because like if you're not, it's 2 players, so it's kind of hard. But the idea is he plays his local 2D bark. So we got the local 2D barks in for the ability system. I kind of worked on that as like a side quest earlier last week, and I forgot to mention it. Let me get this camera a little bit closer. And if I tell him to hit X, oh yeah, you can't hear it over the thing. Hold on. Let me do a little bit closer. Oh, I paused it. God, oops, sorry. I paused it so you can't technically hear it till I unpause it. That's my fault. So we're gonna do a Z. Yeah, it's not. I can't hear it right now. I'll get to look into that. But the idea is that you figure when he does do it, he yells into your 2D, and then someone else can hear it over here. But it might be a quirk of splitting between the cameras and losing audio focus. We'll test that in the actual live build. But the idea is that I'll double check that. But if someone uses rapid fire or they use deploy gun, RTS players can hear it, and then the operator can hear it. The same way that so that way they get a confirmation of like, let's say someone ordered one of your guys that's following you to like shoot someone in the head with a sniper rifle. Then he'll say like locking on. He'll say that verbally as a 2D bark that the player that did it will hear, but then he'll also say it for the players that are near him watching an RTS or people that are on the ground playing as the operator. So it's a small little change that I snuck in last week. Actually, here, let me just play the video, and then we're going to look into that later. So that is basically a 2D bark, where it plays that for you basically locally, sure. But then here's the actual, like, can we download faster, please? Yeah, why is Discord so slow today? Okay, I'll just play it off of Discord. All right, hold on. Can I... Why is Discord so slow today for downloading? Okay. That's 14 megabytes. It's going to take that long? Okay, fine. I'll move on and come back to that. Let me go to the next thing. Is the footsteps. So can I download that one quicker? Yeah, that downloaded quicker. So basically the footsteps is something else that we got where they're heavily optimized in client calls. So the idea is that we added a client side prediction for footsteps based off of proximity to camera. So you're not simulating footsteps for thousands of infected that aren't even physically by your camera. So that way it's highly performant and it's cheap in terms of basically, and we spent quite a bit of time this week just kind of cleaning up how that system worked and refactoring it from the base code that we had in Legacy and making it more of a data asset over like an in-game like blueprint actor that we spawned, which was just messy and dirty, and it was just the way we did it in Legacy, and it was just this is cheaper and more efficient in every way, and technically it also supports footsteps. So technically, long time if we have like mud or snow or other effects, it supports spawning basically footsteps for like having those visual effects in the world. Now, one of the other things, so let me pull that up. Okay, that video downloaded. Is basically, this is what I was trying to show earlier. So, oh, there we go. So when I hit the deploy, you'll see he's gonna do his 2D bark, and then you can hear in the 3D he yelled it out. Now we're gonna have to have Michael or someone else go in and tweak some of the attenuations because they're a little too quiet for the 3D version. So this is a 2D ability bark. This is a 3D ability bark. So then that way players in the world can get the audio feedback. We'll tweak that, but that's something that we're kind of experimenting with on that standpoint of things. Now the next thing is, hold on. Oh, actually, this is a really good time lapse that explains it. There's something else right here. Let me open up this video. So this is basically a time lapse of how the new system works. It's an older visual way of showing it, but the principle is there. Where the idea is this is slow-mo times 20 times normal time dilation. And the idea is as the zones hit 100%, different news reports come out. Now there are fake news and there's real news. And the idea is that you have to decipher which one is relevant to you based off of like, oh, that's just a normal piece of news that this isn't relevant to the infection or what's going on in the world. So as it deteriorates, you'll see basically like mass panic, roads are blocked, mass exoduses, power outages, Zone Z has become a graveyard, like that kind of stuff. And then eventually it'll just say like it's shutting down reports. See, zone C is follow completely silent. So at that point, you're not going to get any more reports out of that zone. So that's how that system works over the legacy system. And then, hold on, let me get the next thing. Here's the next video we're going to show off, which is the Sharon. So we got the Sharon in, we got the rocket pods in. That's going to be in tonight's build as well. I didn't really show that too much, but basically here's a quick little video of that. And then the next thing, we already showed the VTOL. We already showed that. We showed that. Okay, so then that sums up the programming, and now we're going to show it live, and we're going to show off a couple of the AI things that we do. So people that are going to be playing with me to showcase it live, we're going to do this for about 10 to 15 minutes and just show some of the new changes that I did. I'm going to talk about it. We're going to go to our default starting base, which is just the one at the top north. I'll give some cheap money for sake of time convenience so you guys can build some of the newer helicopters and you can show off the base defenses. So I'll give you guys a minute to load up all your games, and while I'm doing that, let me see if I can... Yeah, I'm not going to be able to show that. Let me see. Can I show that? Yeah, I can show that really quickly while they're loading up their games. Is that this is the other thing that I spent quite a bit of time last night working on, is that how the AI pathfind in terms of... Oh, wait. I took all my engineers out. Oopsie. I need you. And then I'm going to have Michael talk about the balance as well. to start with when we start up the play session, and then that'll give some time for them to basically segue into the other stuff. So one of the issues that we've had with Legacy, just keep in mind when I go to level 20, there's an issue with like the physics system. So that's why we don't ever allow this speed. But one of the issues that we had in Legacy that we really like struggled with was having it to where infected would understand how to target people behind walls. They just kind of meander and stand there, or like you'd see the Juggernaut dance back and forth. So we spent a considerable amount of time. Let me actually make sure whoever I spawn in, I don't kill instantly. Pause, hold fire, and I'm going to show what goes into their actual thinking now. So if I go here, and I go to debug, and I turn on you, and you. And I'm going to play. So you can see at this point, he's doing that line trace. He understands he can hit the person with the projectile. So he's just going to sit here and try and wither down the wall. And then when the wall is down, he's going to drop threat to that wall. And then immediately go in to try and kill him. And then get into a line sight where he can kill him. Instead of what they do right now on the co-op build that you guys are playing, where they'll just focus on walls. And they just become a train. Where they can breach a wall. And there could be a turret and a unit here, but they ignore them completely. Now, the other thing is that if I spawn in a standard infected, because what you guys are going to see is an actual live, is this, they have a better demonstration of this if I show that. So if I go to the standard, if I can spell standard incorrectly, and I go to the pandemic version, not the horde version, and I spawn, oh, my dog was having a nightmare. So if I basically build that, and I go to slow-mo 10. Come on, go help. If they bug out again, it's because they're on this time dilation. Okay, so now we're going to do this, and we're going to spawn an infected. We're going to pause the game. We're going to F8, click on him, F11, go to his controller, turn on his debug, and you're going to see just basically the evaluation that goes into his AI that we're going to be testing going into this week. Oh, fuck. I forgot to put them on hold fire. God damn it. Sorry. Okay, so we're going to do this. Turn that back on. There, boom. Okay, so what happened here? This is something that's plagued the game for 5 fucking years. And basically, one of the things that we set out to do this time around was this intelligent evaluation of the world. The reds are basically units that we can't reach yet. We can't, and if we're not a projectile-bearing unit, we can't touch them. We can't do anything. We can only focus on what's currently in front of us in this moment. So in this moment, he evaluated that these walls are the ones he can damage, and the reds are ones that are basically off limits. He can't even attempt to attack them in any shape, manner, or form. So if I go to his seed list, which is basically his current list of enemies, you can see all the walls have 0 threat, and they have a threat limit of 20, say. And then you figure it's currently unattackable. No, they can attack all that. But if I go down, the engineers, that one, are unattackable, which means that I can't attack them, but you'll notice they have a higher threat level, and they're going to gain threat level as you shoot them. So the idea would be is the moment that the system flips the flag, and it's like, hey, I can kill you now, then basically they're going to immediately jump off the wall and go to that unit. So that way they're able to keep a conscious memory of who is their adversaries, who is damaging them, because previous systems got so caught up in the moment that they would kind of bug out or freak out sometimes. So it's going to be really interesting to see if this is enough, and we're going to be playtesting this and figuring out, is it enough? What do we need to tweak? What's too hard? What's too easy? And then adjust accordingly. So that kind of sums up everything that we've done this week. Now we're just going to jump into an actual playtest. I'm going to host a session. Michael's going to take over for talking about what he's been doing this week for game balancing and what he's working on for the infected. And then by then I'll segue into what's going on in game. Oh, someone's playing. Let me host the game. All right, cats that are waiting, go ahead and join. Give them a good like 20 to 30 seconds to pile in. Hopefully they didn't go AFK. Okay, cool. We have a couple people in. Is there anyone else coming? Let me just check the channel. I think I've given everyone that's coming enough time to pop in. Okay, so I think everyone that's coming. So I'm gonna go to explore so I can see the chat. No one's saying anything. All right. And then you can see this is a new hub room. I think I showed this briefly off last week. Dimitri's been working on the helicopter, so he's been taken off of the hub for a couple of days to help out on the helicopters, get some of the visual elements set up. He'll be coming back to this, ideally going into next week, now that the helicopters are done. There might be some things we pull them away from for the vehicles if we need some finessing and adjustment here and there, but it'll be on a per-case basis as Derek needs support from a technical standpoint of just implementing the vehicles and just making sure everything's working. Now, I don't know if those two are customizing weapons. Can I start? Can you guys say something in chat? Oh, they're not customizing. They're just... Look, we're jerking over there. Do I have anything to level up? No, I don't. Okay, so we're going to jump right in. So, pandemic. Choose the map. Launch. So, they're going to be playing. I'm going to be spectating. Michael's going to take over at this point. We're only going to do this for about 10 to 15 minutes to show some of the recent changes. And then we're going to open up to the Q&A. And then at that point, we're all going to go into the public Discord. And we're going to play a public session where anyone can join. Because I'll release it out to everyone of what we're going to be playing. And then that way, everyone can play it. We can have a good time. If you guys want to go play with your friends, great. If you want to make your own channels in the Discord, great. All right, so they're going to do their thing. I'm going to give us some cheap money so they can build the better helicopters and we can just kind of speed that up because for the sake of time. So they'll manage themselves or organize themselves. So Michael, take over for what you've been doing.
All right. So in terms of balance, we're going to start with the standard infected and just go down the list from there. So currently my vision for them is that they're not dangerous alone, but when you forget about them, they're dangerous. So in terms of like damage curves and flatline, is any gun can do, it just devastates them. They're cannon fodder, so they get shredded. That was really the main idea with them, is not to make them bullet spongy, but more of like in hordes, they're more dangerous than when they're alone, but they also can be burst down very quickly. So then when we go over to the little guys, the idea behind them is kind of like what Robert was saying, is like they have moderate gun resistance, they still die fast. My idea was shotguns and explosions and snipers would just melt through them. With them, the only thing that really needs to change is their base health value. That's what really, all the damage tables for them have been set. It's more their health needs to be slightly lowered so you can actually see the impact of the weapon to them, because right now it's a little high. In terms of the brute was supposed to be the in-between between the normal infected and kind of like a baby juggernaut. So with that being said, his weaknesses in my head were going to be snipers, shotguns, and mainly explosions. So he's more of like rush up, destroy a lot of your, structures, like walls is mainly what I wanted him to be. Kind of like primarily he does a lot of damage to any type of wall structure. And then with the spitter, this one's been kind of ebb and flow in terms of like either he's sniping you or he's just sniping you. That's really the biggest complaint with him, is he's got a little bit of a range thing that I'm still trying to tweak. I think what we need to do with that is also add a range value between if he's attacking a unit on the ground versus a unit in the air. He needs to have a slight difference in how far you can shoot if it's an air target, and have a lower range for if they're a ground target, just to kind of lower that nuisance a little bit. And with them, it was the same caveat with them, is like they have very slight resistance bullets, but they take extreme extra damage from explosions and shotguns. Shotguns are like your best friend. With the spine thrower, I wanted that one to be another one that takes additional damage from explosions. So when you go in there, it's more to keep a distance. So if you're using helicopters on them, it's very advised to use anything with range against a lot of infected structures. And for the Juggernaut, this one's a little newer, so I'm still playing with this one a little bit. But ideally, his health needs to be, if not doubled. But the caveat with that is that explosions do 2 times the damage to him. Sniper rifles do about, I'd say like 25% more damage to him. But that's another unit of where you can kill them in mass with normal guns, but the idea was to use your range and hold.
What have I done?
With the gas towers, I wanted those to. I slowed the spread a little bit. It was going about 100 UU, which I'm not a math magician. So Robert, do you know what the conversion of that is by a chance off your head?
It's centimeters. Just say centimeters.
Centimeters. Thank you. Centimeters. So I lowered it from 100 centimeters per second to 50 centimeters per second because I did notice that it was going very quickly, like extremely quickly. And with that guy, explosions, just anything explosive does extra damage to any infected pod structure. And then with Chelsea's going to have a few things coming to her table. So right now, the main focus is making her not get melted by just normal gunfire. So explosions and snipers really do anything to them, to her. Everything else, you're not really going to see a lot of damage coming from it. And so what's next in terms of like the balance is kind of like the HP values across the board for the infected. I need to go through and tune the explosion splash radiuses, make the AOE resistance. I need to kind of see if I can tweak that. I might just have to mess with the fall off damage. And with that being said, going into that would be kind of tweaking the rage mode for the Juggernaut in terms of like what exactly I want it to do in terms of like how much health I want him to gain, how much damage I want him to gain as well when he's in his enrage mode, and then also looking at spreading that out to certain archetypes of infected like the Brute. I'm playing around with seeing if I can add in a rage mode to him. And that really covers like the wide spread of that. In terms of like the balance, there's still a lot of health values that still have to go, and I still have to kind of tweak the circ a little bit, but I feel like right now the circ are pretty balanced. It's really just getting the infected on par with them in terms of balance, and that's just really with the health values, so it's not so bullet spongy feeling right now. And then that covers basically all I had on my topic for the balance side of things.
Movie. They got clapped. Definitely going to have some balance changes to make because my God, that was bad. We'll see how attempt 2 goes. So you'll see right off of the bat. So there's a new so the Juggernauts are basically being spawned in a little too early, and they're being spawned in with not enough limiters in place. So it's something I'm going to be tweaking going into Monday. This first build, Saturday and Sunday, is not going to be for the faint of heart. It's going to be sweaty as all hell. I know that the balance is all over the place. It's because we can't do both at the same time of building the game and balancing it at the same time. In terms of like, we're like 2 or 3 people that are doing it. The normal studios that do this will have an entire department in charge of balancing. So we're doing the best we can as we're still putting in the mechanics and the systems as well as balancing it. So yes, keep making your Steam forums, keep making your Discord posts. Give us data, give us feedback on what you like and what you don't like. Don't be crazy about it, but just let us know. Because we know that we're definitely gonna have to tone things the hell down when it comes to next week. Now, Michael's gonna be looking at everything you guys are saying on Discord. He's gonna be looking at everything you're saying on Steam, and trying to come to a consensus in terms of where he wants to kind of leave it, and also the community, like, you know, if it's too hard, like getting some feedback. Now, right now, I feel like the game is geared a little too much towards director's cut, in that going into next week, as the helicopters are wrapped up, and as I'll give him a little bit money, more pity money, and as the helicopters are wrapped up, Derek starts the custom game options. You don't like our balance? Change it yourself. So we'll get our recruit mode. We'll get our director's cut edition of the 2 base modes. And then at that point, you're going to have your custom game options. Change their melee. Change when they come in. Change their max walk speed. Turn off certain infected types. Whatever the hell you want. I'll even give you the option to turn off the gas tower. Because I know I was arguing with someone on Steam the other day, but they were like, I want to turn off the gas towers or they're too broken. It's like, they're not broken. They're just smart about their placement. In Legacy, they'd put a gas tower over here, not giving a shit of its implications in combat. They'd put a gas tower over here It was just random. They didn't give a fuck. There was no grand plan. There was no hive mind like what the Pengu virus is, where it's something that actively is working against you every step of the way. So one of the biggest things for me was like they're going to aim in this rebuild. They're going to aim for saturation. They're going to aim for if they can't get that nice sexy spot that is like 70 to 60%, they'll settle for 30 to 40. And if they can't get that, then they'll encase you in circles around you and then slowly wither their way in. Or sometimes they'll do 1 or 2 gas towers to protect Chelsea, and then they'll immediately on day 2, all their other gas towers are going to be around you in a circle. They're gonna try and contain you. They're gonna try and stop you from basically trying to stop them. They're an active threat. There's gonna be a play for every counterplay both ways. They build gas towers. You run strike squads. You run hit and run missions. You know, that kind of stuff. You try and basically spread out and contain them to the best of your ability. Now, and again, we're going to be experimenting. We're going to be slowing down the pace. I know that it's kind of really fast right now, and it's a lot overwhelming for some people. Excuse me. This is not final. I want to emphasize that because I've seen some people on Steam acting like this is final and that this is going to be the final balance and it's going to be sweaty and they're not going to be able to actually enjoy the game anymore. And it's like, calm down. We're building the game and we're doing minor performance stuff and we're just trying to get it to the point where you can play it, and then give us a week or two after all the base systems and all the base mechanics are in to refine it, fix some optimization issues, fix the balance, fix the pricing, and then let us know how that feels. So do share your opinion, but don't be crazy about it, please. Like you figure like it's very early, and just bear with us when it comes to that regard as we're working through these issues, because we're getting to a turning point in the game's development. We're getting to a point where now Pandemic is in there and all the base systems are in there. Now we can tweak it. Now we can manipulate it. Now we can rearrange the table. The table is set. Now we just need to move some systems around, add some limiters here, change when those things occur, change when that spawns on certain days. And that's what all this has been about. A sprint, week by week by week, as you guys have seen every Saturday, to get it to the point where you can play Pandemic in full single player or co-op. So I just want to emphasize that because I'm gonna be clipping this and I'm gonna be sending this to people on replies on Steam. Because you figure you have no idea how like people can get really out of pocket comments sometimes on Steam, and I'm like, whoa, over there, Lassie, calm down. Like you figure. So just keep that in mind. We're gonna see if they survive this attack. Let's see, where are they staging? Let's go look around. So Chelsea's over here. Oh shit. Okay, so screenshot and then warp. So that is the other issue. There you go. She's fixed. I'm going to have to fix that. So she's moved so fast that sometimes she can phase into a car. So I have to investigate that. She's basically the Flash sometimes. Where like she'll legitimately like run into an object and like dematerialize into it. So that's something I got to investigate or make like a safety loop that basically fixes that. Can we not harass her too? I mean, I gave you guys cheat money, but there's no reason for you guys to sit there and do that because you guys are going to defeat the purpose of what we're doing right now. I mean, you guys know that. Don't hit the debug key. Whoever just hit that, turn that off. I mean, I give you guys money not to cheat like that hard. Jesus. Okay, maybe I shouldn't have opened it up that much because someone hit the debug key. I'm gonna have to lock that out. Holy shit! Could someone hit the little period, comma key? Because someone spammed something on their keyboard. Now they have the debugger running. It's that key on your keyboard. I'm gonna have to figure out a way of locking that out. Epic doesn't expect you to cook development build for the public. So the problem is that you figure anyone has access to press those keys and be able to like bring it up for every player, including the host, and it just fucks everything up. So you'll see right off the bat we have roamers. So roamers are the precursor to lieutenants, and basically roamers. Or let me unpause it. Sorry, roamers are basically juggernauts, lieutenants, special infected types that we're building towards the thing of they aren't sold to any investigation. They aren't sold to an attack wave. They do whatever the hell they want when they want. They might patrol the zone. They might, like walk around aimlessly for a while. But then when someone needs help, they go and respond. So if an attack wave spawns in, if an investigation wave spawns in, they might task themselves to basically go and assist in a capacity. And this is going to be an extension of how lieutenants work, where they're going to be like, maybe I'll go help out this investigation. Maybe I'll go, help out on this attack. And one thing that I want to hit upon that I was talking to Ford about last night, and we're going to open this up for discussion before we do the public playtest, is I'm going to be starting on Chelsea around Tuesday, Wednesday, ideally, after I get some more polish done for the juggies. So going into that, that's going to be something that's going to be really interesting to basically, kind of figure out what you guys' expectations are for Chelsea, because I have a lot. I'm basing her off of Mercer from Prototype. So there's a lot of things that need to happen to her, like the Juggernaut, where she wrecks face. She is basically, if you walk into her in the first 2 or 3 days, you're probably fucking dead. 9 out of 10 times. You have to just run away because you're not prepared. And, it's just spur of the moment, kind of like, oh, we need to retreat. We need to stun her. We need to put her into her health pod, incapacitate her, and then retreat because we can't kill her yet. So my goal going into mid next week is getting Chelsea's pod state situated and focusing what I did on the Juggernaut. I need to finish another couple days on that, is do it to her. And then that way, in Legacy, she was just a reskinned standard infected. In this one, she's a full-fledged boss. Because the Juggernaut has stages. When you piss him off and you get his health to a certain amount, he goes into rage mode. At 50% health, he gains 20% resistance in terms of damage. So he can take damage a little bit more effectively. He does his chest beat where he roars out into the map. It gets really pissy. And then basically will go on rage mode. Chelsea will have a version of that based off of stages. Now the other thing is I got to put the Juggernaut's charge ability in. So after I fix those focus issues going into Monday, I'm going to be making it to where she has her charge, and that charge will effectively allow the Juggernaut, to just basically run right through tier 1 walls. Slap units out of the way, like the Kool-Aid Man, for the Juggernaut from X-Men kind of deal. So the idea is he's the siege breaker or the charger from Helldivers. He'll come in say right here, and then just charge through this wall. This is a tier 1, this is tier 2. So a tier 1 he'll break immediately and stop at. A tier 2, he'll half health it. A tier 3, he'll quarter health it. So the idea is that he's just going to start here and just charge right into this wall and completely demolish it, go through sandbags, go through Hescos, go through barbed wire. And basically it'll be a ramp-up ability with a very decent amount of cooldown, so it's not exploitable. But that'll be the general idea that we kind of go in to kind of flesh him out. That's one of the last systems that I have to kind of polish up going into basically Monday, is his focus issues, tweak his ground slam a little bit more, and then get his charge in. And then I'm all in on Chelsea until she's done. And then it's the save system. So you guys can actually press escape and press save game and save your bases. And maybe you play a game offline, and then you bring your friends in to resume it. You're like, hey, I got this really cool base. I already started the hub. I have a cool starting area. Do you guys want to come join my game or start a new game? And then that way you can host the game, and then they can come in and play with you. So that's going to be the interesting part, is basically just seeing how that works out. Are they bugging out, or are they... Okay, I was about to have a stroke. It's just because they're trying to kill Riff. So you can see in this example, you have RTS covering, and then you have an operator on the ground, basically like pulling the aggro and doing a little bit of assist. Now, because I gave them so much damn money, this will probably be a little too easy for them. Now, if I were to guess, the Juggernauts were on their way. If I was a bet man, because you figure that wave went over a little too well, and that's something I'm going to be tweaking. Is I'm going to be limiting them to 1 to 2 Juggernauts every day, and then as supplement days go on, I'll increase the cap up to 6 Juggies. Oh, here they come. I guess that wave went over a little too well. Let's see what they do to that helicopter. Is he going to bug out? And he's going to bug out. That's kawaii. His range must be too short. What is he doing? Oh, wait. No, now he woke up. What is he doing? He's trying to throw something right now. Oh, they're going for that, and they're hitting it through the wall. I'm going to have to fix that. That's weird. That's kawaii. Oh, there's some... Oh, they accidentally deleted that wall. Okay, I've got to investigate that. So there are definitely some issues I'm going to be looking into going into Monday, because there's some weird targeting going on with their AI. I don't know why he's not prioritizing the little bird. I'm going to have to check his threat. Oh, wait, there he goes. Nope, he wants to kill them. But yeah, he's fixating on the wrong targets. We just changed the threat system like last night. I'm definitely going to have to make the little bird a much higher threat, because he's misappropriating them to these guys. For some reason, that operator and that operator and these guys were a threat over the little bird, shooting him with a goddamn quad cannon. So let's see. We'll play it out a little bit longer, and then we're gonna go back to. We're gonna move on to the Chelsea discussion, and then we'll open it up for Q&A. Oh, there's a little guy trying to get into their base. Oh, that's funny. That's the bug I was talking about. Oh, he killed that operator. Oh, that was a real person. God, sucks to be him. I don't know who that was, but he's dead. That operator got wrecked. So I'm going to have to fix that, because I guess they can still try to move when they basically stun you, incapacitate you. Let's see how we're doing for money and time. Can we show some of the new helicopters before we wrap this up, guys? Maybe build the Apache. Oh, that's 40K. There's no way you guys are going to afford that. Way too broke. I mean, if I give you that much money, are you... Okay, fuck it. I'll give you guys 30K, 60K to wrap it up. Come on. We got to move on to the Q&A. So build some of the newer units and show them, and then we're going to basically move on to the next section. Now, the interesting part is I also did change some of the centroid logic. So you'll notice that as you build a base in these test versions, there's a little spear. That spear is what the AI director, or rather like the zone is basically saying, if you hit this point, you'll probably kill 80% of the base. So that's their direction, or they're like, that's like their cached local like area that they're trying to hit, in terms of they're moving to that. And then it allows them to break out as they run into combat and other things like that. So that's what that spear is. Like if I take... where's an engineer? Oh, that operator's an engineer. Perfect. So let's say I build a spotlight in this stupid little area over here. Let's say right here. I'm going to steal your operator, whoever that is. Striker duo. I'm still here for a demonstration. Sorry, guys. So when I build this, you're going to see a little spear. And what I'm going to say is that, let's see, when it deploys, it's going to set it up. See, right there. So that spear right there is essentially what they're going to aim for to basically maximize the most amount of damage in your base. And it's dynamically cold every time you build something. It's looking at every structure in your base and then generalizing it on the navigation mesh. Now, the idea is that as you build larger bases, as you build smaller bases, it's going to break those up into clusters or fobs. We technically call it fob clusters internally, but they're basically fobs or little forward operating bases. And as it does that, it will score them, and it will basically cache that location for quick access for pathfinding for the infected. So should they decide to attack that base, there's an optimal way for them to basically be able to determine the best point to hit in your base. Let's see. Do we have an Apache on the way? Did anyone?
On station.
I guess someone lost their Apache.
Moving out. As you command.
This is the other issue. If anyone can tell us how to reliably reproduce this, I would love you till the end of the earth. Because you figure this happens really randomly, and it gets it to where their units get stuck or fixated on a target that hurt them.
Ready to go.
And then the only way they just randomly fix sometimes. So that's something that if you guys can tell us what's causing that, report it on Steam, report it on Discord. That is actually really high on our bucket list of trying to hunt down and eradicate. Where is the Apache? Am I blind? Oh, that's a little bird though. That doesn't count. Oh, I'll just use it. I mean, you would never get this unit this early in the game, but you see the point of like they're just kind of using all that extra money I gave to basically set up a core and keep pushing out and basically try and expand down lanes. As you can see, she's launching an investigation attack here to try and counteract our helicopters. So if anything, she's probably going to send a pack of spitters. Let's go see how well this goes over. Horribly for her. So like ideally, the more I use this the Apache, the more she's going to counter anti-air. So you can see there's more and more spitters being built. Actually, don't blow up, guys. So she actually hasn't countered. She hasn't fully switched over her strategy yet, but she will. So you can see there was the projectiles of it firing its missiles. It's laying into them. My God. I wonder how that looks from an operator perspective.
Tell me where to go.
Must look glorious. I guess I'm fighting someone else to basically control the RT. That's one thing that we need to consider doing, is that we need to have like a color on the name. Like right here where it says Shawnee Helicopter, we might want to consider changing that to like the color of the last person that gave them an order. Or if someone gave them an order in the last couple of seconds, it would associate a color. So that way you would know like who you're fighting control over for a unit. I mean, I guess you could always go and do this, where you change the ownership to ownership, and then that way I can gift that unit to one player. But when you're in open control mode, holy shit. Well, yeah, you're fine. There's only one spitter down there. He laid out the other ones down there. Those spitters got wrecked. So yeah, they haven't really built up a large, ample amount to counter you yet. Oh, you know what? The Apache is still new. It's not on the counter table yet. I need to go and put that in. That's right. So they're not treating it as a helicopter just yet. So technically, the Apache is going to be a walking exploit until I patch the game either Sunday night or Monday, because they don't know how to respond. When there's a new unit added to the game and there's no counter build order put up, they generalize it. So the Sparrow and the Black Hawk, yeah. So technically, the Sparrow's the only one that has a direct counter build list right now. So I'll have to fix that. And then you can see there's another little guy. Like Michael was saying, he is a little too much health. Let's see what he's going to do. He really hates those operators. My God, he's trying to eat them. I think Riff has some anger issues. I think he's gotten grabbed a little too many times by that guy. He was telling me that like he's always just kind of getting like, you'll just be minding your own business. It'll come out of nowhere, jump on you, incapacitate you. And how often do you have an operator just sitting in the middle of nowhere, not protected? Pretty goddamn often. It's because like you figure like operators tend to just be like you know, blunt instruments that just kind of go out in small little teams. That incentivizes you to a certain degree where like you have to kind of pay attention to your surroundings and listen for them. Potentially stun them. We're going to have to tweak them and change them a little bit here and there. So what I want to do now is I'm going to... What the hell is going on over here? Oh, yeah. Whoever that Sparrow is, you might want to move him up or move him out. I'm going to move him in. Fuck it. We're going to go for a suicide run before we end this. Move on to the Q&A. Go, Gadget. Kill them all. See, that's the issue I was talking about with the navigation, is that this area is so high that the preset navigation doesn't work properly. So I have to like work on that as as a side quest going into next week alongside the Juggernaut and Chelsea's stuff. So you can see in this case, my pilot survived, and what is that? Oh, there's the Sparrow backing me up. And just keep in mind, all of this is going to be public, so you guys can play your own single-player games. You can play your own co-op games, have fun, leave us feedback. Let us know what you like, let us know what you hate. Oh, here they come. God, they're getting laid out. We definitely are going to have to increase the range of those spitters. They cannot even get within engagement distance of these turrets. Like, those turrets... I'm sorry, their engagement distance is so short, they can't even, like, do anything to these turrets. Oh, I'm sorry, Riff. I hate you. I don't know. That's kind of broken, bro. I don't know. I'll talk with Michael and we'll confer and look over the stream later. But I'm not... I think that's a little broken. And then, what are the Juggies doing? I haven't seen them in a while. I'll have to look into that. That Apache's about to die, but that's because... Yeah. Yeah, I haven't seen some Juggies in a while, so there might be that system might not be respawning them actively enough. I'll look into that. Again, like, there's going to be a lot of new mechanics and a lot of new systems, so I'm going to be hunting down bug reports, talking to people, seeing what needs to be changed, seeing what's too hard, seeing what's too easy, and adjusting accordingly. So we'll conclude it there, because I want to move on to Chelsea's part. You guys can keep playing. I'm going to leave the game open for a little bit longer before we switch over to the public, so we have a visual aid for the Q&A. So I'm going to try and do this without minimizing, because the game tends to be a little bit weird when you minimize. Let me open up the YouTube chat on my phone. And then Discord, I can already see that. If you said something previously, you need to ask it again. Because you figure I was so blabbermouthing going over all this that I did not see it. So if you had a question and I didn't see it, I didn't acknowledge it, you need to mention it again in the channel. And I'm going to be going through that nowish. And then that'll give you guys some time to recomment your things. I am going to go to the YouTube channel on my phone. Why do they make this app so complicated? Hold on. Go there. Go live. Go there. And mute it so I don't hear myself. Oh, you can't watch your own live video on your phone? Oh, fuck it. I'll just open it on my browser. I'm going to risk it. Open control room. Okay, cool. Yeah, it's live. Sorry, I didn't even notice you guys were writing in there because I've been so busy going to this week's report. Okay, so questions. What do we have? So literally 1984 asked a question. Well, actually, that's not a question. So that's what we do literally, where we basically have the pilots are the only ones that are exclusive to the helicopters, but everyone else, like the ground vehicles, use essentially a assault, so they're interchangeable. So you can put anyone into a vehicle when you lose them. Okay, so let me see if I can find these questions you're talking about. So the skins are not live yet on the rebuild. That would take us probably about 2 to 3 days to get set up again, technically. So we don't want to take the time to put that in just yet. It's going to be coming in the next 30 days or less. By Halloween, the goal will be is to try and get the support skins back in so you guys can use them. So again, we ask for a little more patience as we're just kind of working through the rebuild. We have a very limited amount of people on the team. So that is something that's on the backlog and will be implemented. Like another example is that we're going to be implementing the music system sometime in the next week or two. is that myself and Derek have been discussing putting the music system in for the helicopters and putting it in for the Ajax. So before he works on the Ajax, him and I are going to tag team probably a couple hours next week, port over the UI, get the Steam Workshop stuff set up again, and be able to have it to where you can play your music for your friends. If you both have that track, then basically you'll both hear it. Otherwise, it'll be server authoritative, so you just won't hear anything if you're a client. But that's something we'll be putting in and sneaking in sometime next week as well, if everything goes to plan. Worst case, that might bleed in the following week, but we need to get the music system back in as well. Let's see what we have here. So the Epic Games version is currently behind because they don't give us beta branchers like Steam does. So the newest version you're going to have is the one that's about 2 months ago. That was the last merge version. I currently have to change some of the branding art because we got in trouble on Epic for having too provocative of art because it's blood and people dying on the hub. I don't know. They said it was too violent. So we got penalized on Epic. So I have to pay an artist now to change the branding just on Epic. And they didn't tell me what to change when I asked them what was wrong. So basically it's a needle in a haystack situation, and we have an update pending and we can't release it until I pay an artist to change it. I asked for them to overrule it. They denied that overrule. So don't know why they're doing that, but it is what it is. So I have to basically find the time to pay an artist to budget that out to get that changed so I can push that update out to EOS. So bear with us on that. I've been so focused on just programming and basically tunnel visioning the programming that I have neglected that. I'll try and fit that in next week so you guys can at least get what's been changed on the non-merged version. Because technically you guys are missing out on like 7 to 8 months of content because of that. So I'll figure it out. I'll try and get that on Monday. So let me see. What else do you have for questions? So that's why we need to wait feed the need, because I need to figure out how to do that technically. Is that we ideally do it like how Stellaris does, but I need to talk with Derek and we need to figure out how to go in that direction. Where we have like an unlock key or a cipher key, and then we have to fork or basically like branch the DLCs or support to make sure the older version works and the newer version works. There's a lot of moving parts. That's why like I haven't wanted to like open up that can of worms for cosmetics yet for the support packs and leave it with a legacy version for the time being, because it's a lot. So right now I'm primarily focused on pure content of getting the vehicles in, getting them functional, getting Pandemic in, and then I can get back to getting those support pack stuff in for what you're talking about, because there's going to be a little bit of R&D and experimentation to get those working again. Let's see. That will come down to basically anyone can change the skins. I think I would end up doing it to where it's the server that does it. Anyone, whoever hosts, you get their support packs and then basically, or their cosmetics to make it the simplest way. So anyone can change it in the game unless you change the control mode. That's how I would plan to do it, based off of just what seems fair. And I look at Stellaris a lot in terms of basically just how they go about doing their monetization, how they go about doing their DLCs and support packs and all that. So that's my initial framing. But we have to just kind of implement the time to get that support in the game, because it's not in there by default. So just keep in mind for that. Do you have any other questions? Let me see. There's a question on YouTube. How is the progress on the third story novel? Peter, if you're talking about Natalie's book, that's currently on hold for the time being. I will have to double check that with Chris, because he's really busy doing some side stuff. So I will double check that with him and see. He does his own thing as writing, so we kind of put that on hold so we can focus on this. So verify what book you're talking about, and I'll get back to you on that one. The unit cap is going to be currently 120 by default, and then you can change it up to 200 if you have a better computer. It's going to purely come down to the custom game options of the host. You'll notice that the host always gets a lower frame rate than the clients because the host is the one that has to have the best computer, best processor. Everything else doesn't really matter. Hard drive and processor, video card could be 2 or 3 years old, realistically. A 3000 series, 2000 series, and you'd be fine. So just keep in mind that like 120 will be the safe number that we're going to balance the game around. And then if you go higher than that, you have to have a better processor. Like you're going to have to be the recommended spec or a little bit higher, like a 13 or 12th gen equivalent of an i5, i9, i7, somewhere around there. Probably i7, i9, because the entire game is CPU bound. It's always going to be CPU bound, like Arma, like City Skylines, because it's the movement, it's the AI, it's not even the visuals that's expensive. It's just simulating the world is what makes the game so inherently expensive when it comes down to just like the moment-to-moment gameplay of just, oh look, these guys are moving across the map. We have to track those. We have to simulate those. We have to like run that math basically. So that's what makes the game so expensive. And you can find ways to mitigating that, but when you do that, you take concessions on your visual quality. You got like World War Z for like they do flip books and textures for some of the stuff here and there, or they do like you've seen some YouTube videos where they'll have like 1,000 pawns on a map. You have to do melees a certain way. You have to do certain things that take down the visual quality and the visual fidelity of the game, and you have to dumb down mechanics and systems for scale over aesthetics. So it's one of those things where like infected are 200, Circus 120. Civilians are 100, and then dynamic civilian groups are like 15 to 20 in each group. And right there, we're around 400 to 500 max on the map at any given time, and that's already pushing the Unreal Engine to its physical limitations. Days Gone was 300 at that point, and they couldn't do any more for the infected in that game. So it's one of those things where it's like we're optimizing where we can. But to a certain degree, you can only take so much from like optimizing the engine and the movement until you take away from the visual fidelity and the actual like what makes the game in terms of like the attention to detail you can put on units, the amount of animations they have, and just small little nuances here and there. So I guess they're building a fob and trying to expand over here, and they're just kind of using a little board to kind of hold down their expansion here. Let's see what we have for questions. They're about, I would say we're 7 is more so 5, because you figure 2 to 3 people are people that put it in frequently every couple of months, whenever they have the time, we have the budget. Technically, we're 7 when we need audio, and when we need music. We're more so like 4-ish most of the time now. No, it's 5. It's about 5 people. So 5 is more realistic number. 2 programmers, 2 level designers, modelers, 1 animator, character modeler, gameplay guy. So it's me, Michael, Derek, Efren, Dimitri. So 5 people. And then Chris and everyone else is just whenever they have the time, which is pretty much like depending on the budget and what needs to be done at that time, which is highly infrequent nowadays. Because most like there's not really much for them to do while we're rebuilding the game and basically just kind of getting everything back in. It's mostly just programmers, level designers, and modelers. Let's see what else we have for questions. We're in the QA section. So we're going to give it another 5 minutes for Q&A, and then I'm going to wrap this up. And then I'm going to basically, transition on to the next area. I think I'm going to cook another patch because I need to add the other helicopters to the counter list. So I'm going to fix that, cook another patch. That'll take about 12 to 15 minutes. Because I'm noticing, like, they're not properly countering the helicopters because, well, they need to have their counter tables put in similar to the Little Bird. And then you can see there's a bug here where only for the host, people show up as unknown, but their colors work. Dark silver, so you know who it is that's building. But that's something we have to fix going into Monday. I got to investigate some questions. Let's see. So Neon Taco asked, would be cool for him, the Juggernaut, to throw a car model needs to be nearby. He runs to said car, throws it, with more of a oh crud situation, but gives a bit more consideration on where you try to fight him. Would also be cool if he can throw it at a car or a helicopter. Would be also cool if he uses cars, if no cars are around, if throws a lamppost, rocks, or even your own vehicles. So we considered that early off, but the problem is that you can just do this. Oh, look, he's running to that tree. Oh, look, he's running to that car. Oh, that street post. It wouldn't work. You can literally just fake them out with the landscape tool. So we went the route of Left 4 Dead, where it was more so gameplay over realism, where they could grab a rock or whatever it is they're throwing out of the ground. Your idea was originally what we wanted to do, but then when we sat down and actually thought about it and brainstormed it, there was just too many ways of exploiting it. There was too many ways of breaking it. So it was one of those things where it was just like, no, we have to just go gameplay over realism in this case. He needs to have the practicality of like, okay, he can literally just grab a rock or grab a car and throw it at you. Now, he already throws the rocks at helicopters. He does an algorithm that basically tries to prioritize where you're going to be in a couple of seconds and then throws it. And then you can dodge that. So as long as you're paying attention to basically where it's going when it leaves his hands, you could order a counter move to dodge it depending on the speed of the vehicle in play. Definitely the roamers are not working after the first push, so I'll have to investigate that. Something's going on to where basically it's not respawning them. They are launching investigations, so you can see these guys are coming over because these guys keep attacking them. There's constantly, they took out that little bird. Oh, they lost their little bird. They lost the base. They're being chased out of the zone. So you can see this is the perfect example where they did not apply enough resources, enough men, and they did not push them out, and it became a tug of war, and they lost. So they had to run with their tails behind their hides. Because you figured now they're just retreating with whatever heavies they could pull out. They're heavy, they're two heavies, and they're sniper. They couldn't afford to get a little bird extraction team in, or maybe they just don't give a damn, because they had a VTOL here. So whoever's in that VTOL just does not give a fuck. Because you figure he could have went over there and extracted that heavy and that sniper, because they could die on the way back, and that's stuff they can't afford to lose. And then use the Apache as an escort to basically get them in and out, because like you figure the Apache can soak up that damage, pull the aggro away. And you can see there's an issue there where like the VTOL was so damn large, he shouldn't have been able to land in that area. So that's why it's like we need to get that system in where you click on it and then you can choose whether they're going to land. So it's more pre-authored of like, oh, like they're not going to clip and hit weird stuff, and it's going to be more traces. So they would know I can't land physically here. I can't. But you can land here. You can land there. Here. Adding more validation for the helicopter's landing, so that way it's a little bit more nuanced. So in this example, you know, you can now click on those guys. Oh, someone already did it. But you can click on the units that you want to click out and then tell them to get out. Any other questions before we wrap this up? The jug cooldown is about 10 seconds for throwing a car. I think that's about reasonable. I'm going to have to play test it and see how that plays out. Because if you're spamming helicopters, he needs to have a way of getting you to calm down. But he can't be the end all. Let's see, what else do we have? That's something that I could have Michael look at, is looking at some of the unit population costs. I'm not against that. I'll put that on his list, and then he can just kind of build some units and see what makes sense, because that's something that he has. I don't think he's looked at it too. Michael, have you looked at it that much for basically looking at the population cost for units? That's what I figured.
No, there's so much. I'll get to it.
Yeah, because I can figure again.
There's just a lot of stuff in flux. In terms of the weapons, because the biggest thing is like the cost of the weapon is also implicated with the cost of the unit, so that includes their secondary. So it's a little bit deeper than that. Like, sure, I could lower the cost of the unit, but it still might not be as good as going through and actually tweaking all the values for the weapons. So honestly, the price for all the weapons needs to be adjusted as well.
What he said. Hey, Riff, can you go inside that red zone so I can show the infection system? So you see, when pause it, he has his gas mask on when he enters the zone automatically, and then that oxygen meter starts counting down. That's the other system that wasn't really discussed about last week. So the operators can see that now on their local HUD, and so can the RTS players. So then that, let me pause it. So then that way they can communicate and be like, oh, like your oxygen's low, running low. You're not going to be able to get in time to that gas tower right here, because you could send a team in, but you might have to account for like, hey, like we physically can't get there in time. We're going to need a Black Hawk or a Little Bird. So if we can't physically get to it because we can't afford a helicopter attack team, then basically you can essentially send in like a helicopter to get them out really quickly. Like you can see right now, his Apache got lit up. I added defense emplacements to the gas towers, because previously they were unprotected. People exploited the holy hell out of that shit. They would literally just run in there with like 2 or 3 Little Birds and just deck them. They'd run away. So like now, if you do that, they're gonna pre-fire as you're coming in, and they're gonna be like, and they might take out half your units just right there, because like it's like you have to actually have to plan. You can't just brute force into every situation. It's gonna take scouting. It's going to take basically logistics and just kind of figuring out what you can and cannot do. You're going to have to concede some battles. You're going to have to quarantine and section them off instead of being able to go in every time and just blow everything up immediately. So it's going to be really interesting. So what I wanted to do is really quickly, I'm going to move forward up because there's not that many questions anymore. Forward, do you want to bring up what we were talking about so we can move on to the playtest? 40. Hello. Okay, so bring up what we were talking about, so that way for Chelsea we can talk about that briefly, see if they have any questions or ideas, and then we'll move on to the playtest.
Yeah, I touched based on it like really briefly in the question, but the whole basics of it was like to add more like nuance to like Chelsea, like make her a little more of a threat. So like they would do it like multiple separate ways, right? Like, you could have one where like she actually traverses the map, and that could be where like she herself could build like, like the infection towers and things. Like she could be an additional builder to help it spread faster, or she could also have like a horde of zombies that roams around with her, and she'll actually like go and defend the towers when you go to attack, some of them, right? Not every single one of them. Or also ones where, like it could be good where if you do attack her, that she could actually like call for backup in a way, right? Have some sort of like stages where like if you would get her like really low, like 10% health or whatever, right? She would actually like try to get some sort of assistance from nearby Juggernauts or nearby spitters or something. So just something to actually like make the final fight a little more.
So let's get into that. So what I want to open the floor for discussion on YouTube, on Discord, on Steam, because I know people write like long posts when I post these videos, and that's great. Please keep doing that. I like having those discussions on Steam. I don't have to agree with everything you say, but the dialogue is important, so I can see where people are coming from, and I can take that into consideration going into the future of like, I might not do everything you say in that moment. I might be able to do some of it, or even all of it at this point, but I'll log it mentally and come back to that when I can. But one thing that me and Ford were going back and forth about last night, I think we were up at like till 3 or 4 a.m. last night talking about it, is going into Chelsea's AI. There's a couple of things I wanted to do. I'm looking heavily at prototype. So it's going to be basically, I need a counter towards helicopters or ground units. So she's going to, I think I'm going to do away with the jumping on helicopters for right now. That's not going to be in the first pass. I'm going to go something along the line of like she can throw spikes or other things off of her. Like similar to what Alec Mercer has, those little claws that come out. And I'm going to be playing around with the idea of putting physical assets and other things on her to basically represent like her combat state and make phases for her going into next week. So the idea would be is like if she sees a couple helicopters, she might lob or toss some physical projectiles at them. If she's on the ground, she'll have different melee modes, similar to like Mercer and other games like that, like Infamous, where it's like she might have like a wide AoE with like claws that come out of her hands, or she might basically just have a super speed and her moving and all that. And having more self-preservation in her AI to where, like, as she hits certain stages, she'll become enraged, similar to the Juggernaut. And that enrage will force people, it'll basically send out a forced call where everyone on the map within a fixed radius will run to that location to basically, or it'll basically send a request an emergency request to all nearby pods. Come here, get these fuckers to leave me alone, and then she'll run away. Because one of the biggest things, like 10, 20, 30%, she needs to make the decision of like a sliding scale, is as it gets worse and it seems more likely she's going to die, she's going to run away. She'll abandon her primary pod. She'll go somewhere else. So then the idea is that you figure you have to be prepared that if you can't lock her down and kill her in that moment, she might retreat and come back with a vengeance. And one of the things that I was discussing with Forward, and we were kind of going back and forth with last night, is having it to where she might pay a visit to some of the conflict zones for her pods. She won't actively go out and attack you, but she'll be more likely to go to pods, check on their status. You know, basically, like if you keep harassing a certain location, she might show up and have basically like a boredom meter or like a director for her that basically says like she's not going to show up to every encounter. She's not going to show up to every push. But like, give me an example. She is somewhere. Let's see if I can find her. I got to make a console command for you guys when you guys are playtesting where you can type in find Chelsea. So then that way it would just draw a giant arrow. I think she's somewhere over here. But, okay, we're just going to say hypothetically because I don't want to spend the time looking for her pod. I need to write that console command.
Or it's in Breakers Point, Trailer Park.
Breakers Point, Trailer Park.
on
Yeah,
my
okay, you're on it.
drone
Right.
location.
So right here, you can tell this is her primary hive because it has the coral reefs. So what I want to do is make it to where, like, yes, right now she's just sitting here, just standing around, not doing anything. So one of the ideas that we were discussing, and I want to kind of float this idea, see what you guys think as well, is having it to where she might get bored. Like, you know what? I'm gonna go check over here. I'm gonna go walk across the map and just inspect my troops and go, you know, like to a gas tower over here. And then maybe she'll show up over, like somewhere over here and check out those. And then maybe she'll go over here. But wait, you keep hitting this gas tower. I'm gonna go over here and just kind of maybe protect it for a while. You know, they keep popping it every time it gets built. So the idea is that like she'd kind of have like a boredom meter where she just kind of jump around and check her areas. Now, the important distinction is that like she'll have her pod state. So the idea is as you run into her, you'd have to either choose to retreat in that moment or go all in and try and incapacitate her to the point where she goes into her pod state, and then after she leaves the pod state, she retreats. And you guys best motherfucking believe, as I'm going to be investing a serious amount of time of making it to where if you build a wall around Chelsea, like you did in Legacy, and you make her Zoo Tycoon, she's going to destroy everything. I'm literally just going to run hundreds of simulations of just incapacitating her, building a wall around her, building turrets around her, because I know people would do that in Legacy. That shit's not going to fly no more. So you figure I'm going to dedicate a serious amount of time for her AI going into next week. And just as things pop up, as playtesting comes in, to where it's like, oh, you can't just put her in her pod, build a wall, and then just forget about her for the rest of the game. She's going to jump over the walls. She's going to destroy the walls. She's going to keep gaining damage resistance every time you put her into a pod. You're making her stronger, and that system is going to scale greatly every time you do it to where it's like 25%, 25%, 25%. For every time you run into her, or the greater you have to put more damage in and more effort in to basically kill her and incapacitate her, to where it's like you kind of want to leave her alone and just kind of pick and choose your battles, because it's reverse cat and mouse. She's the cat, you're the mouse, until you get to a point where you can twist that dynamic in terms of basically like, you know, being able to counter her. Because you can see right now they keep picking her pods, but they're mostly staying to themselves. So in this example, she might frequent Civic Center or Bayfront just to help out maybe once every 10, 20 minutes, maybe every 20 to 30 minutes. She might show up randomly, inflict some damage, hit a cooldown, and be like, you know what, I'm going to go see how Union Row and Falcon Field's going. And then that boredom meter will build, just like the AI director from Left 4 Dead. You know what? I haven't fucked with the player today. You know, it'd be a shame if something happened to Civic Center for that new, you know, field they built where they destroyed one of my pods. You know, so that kind of stuff. where like you damage her to that threshold. She gets into her pod. She breaks out of her pod, the damage or whatever. And I'm going to be kind of experimenting with that because what I might end up doing is making it to where when she doesn't pod up here, we turn off her ability to take damage because she don't have shredder rounds. She runs back to her primary hive or her safe spot, and then she pods there and regenerates. But will be likely a better option instead of just having her pod up in that location. It's kind of weird to just have her like immediately just make a pod in that location. And then basically like, okay, like I have to wait for her to leave the pod, then I have to attack her again when she runs. So I've seen some people on Steam discussing it with me on and off. I've seen some other discussions on Steam. And that's something else that I'm going to be looking into and kind of theory crafting and tweaking and adjusting with her AI and how her particulars work. So it's something else I'm just going to float out right now. It's something that I'm thinking about, open the door for discussion, see what kind of ideas and suggestions you guys have to throw in there. Because I personally, now that I'm talking about it out loud, I think that it's a better idea that let's say you build a fob, you damage her to a certain threshold here, you don't have shredder rounds. She's like, oh, this is not going to work. She takes off running, goes over here to her home, or her pod over there, like this area. This would be like you pushing this is death. So she'd come over here and basically just pod up and heal and regenerate, lick her wounds. And then basically there'd be a time down where she'd be like, okay, let's go back out and just check pods and nurture things and see how things are going. You damage her again, she retreat back to her primary hive. If she can't get to her hive because it was destroyed, then she'd fall back on a secondary pod or a gas tower that's heavily defended. As you can see right now, like there's the Juggernauts. They're just kind of chilling there. I think I know what happened to them, too. Yeah, I definitely know what's going on with them. Yeah, okay. So I gotta fix that. So they are spawning. They're being spawned in defense pods. So I'll have to look into that. Damn, 2 Apaches? That's a little overkill, but alright. Oh, but they're almost dead, too, so fun. Alright, well, I think that kind of wraps it up for that part. Anyone have anything they want to add to the Chelsea stuff for me to consider going into next week? Speak now. Is there anything you guys want to consider? Any situations that you might want to bring up? If you want to talk on Discord, raise your hand. You want to say something on YouTube, type it out. I'll give you guys a couple minutes to think of something while I fill the air showing the combat. And I'm trying to get into Chelsea's nitty gritty next week. Like do the Juggernaut going into Monday, Tuesday, and then the rest of the week, if I need to do, is just fleshing her out to where she's a serious threat to contend with. Let's see. So vehicles are already in, bro, even on YouTube, but the ground vehicles are coming next 2-3 weeks, give or take. Like you figure, I would say our goal is by Halloween is to have some more ground vehicles in, because you figure Derek's first goal is going to be taking. We don't want to just put the vehicles in and say, oh, we're done, pat ourselves on the back. We don't fix shit of the issues of Legacy. So it's going to be, we put in the Ajax, so custom game options, radio music, and then sometime next weekish. And then at that point, it's going to be the Ajax. We put in the Humvee, we put in the weapons, we put in the different variations of the Ajax. And that vehicle is going to be the incubator for perfecting the pathfinding and the movement. We're not going to put in the JLTV or like the Bradley or the Abrams or like the Mule or any of them until that AI is so perfect that you can't sit here and be like, we made the same mistake all over again. We're rushing this. We're putting that in. We're putting in half-finished mechanics and systems. And then give a reason for people to basically say we haven't changed. We're not actually trying to make any progress. So we'll take the hit. We'll take the flack of rebuild. It's not where it should be. Because we want to make sure with this rebuild, everything's done above board in terms of like, okay, if it needs certain things need a little more attention to detail and time. Things that we've learned over the last 5 years of being in early access, 5 years of using Unreal Engine, and just how the engine has expanded features that now we can use to make our lives easier. So it kind of is like a cascading, like where it's like a linear graph, where it's just like as we're scaling up, we're being able to benefit from all that knowledge and all that the foundation we've built for the game over the last 7 to 8 months. So keep that in mind. We're gonna try and get you guys the Ajax as soon as possible in an early test build. And then technically, there's still one more thing we got to do for the operator. I'll show you guys. Where is it? So if I go over here and I build an operator. Sorry, excuse me. And then I'll show you guys what I'm. Can someone? Is there an RTS player that I can steal to basically demonstrate something for me that I need to control the VTOL? Okay, you're gonna do it, Quibbly, or whoever. What do you guys do it? What do you guys? I don't know which one. But I want to show something real fast so you can see. And then I need a little bird. Does anyone have a little bird without any weapons? Oh yeah, I'm gonna. Okay, someone just built one. Okay, cool.
I just
so
got one.
There's two things I want to show that are technically things that we need to fix for the operator, just to make sure that the operator players aren't at a disadvantage. So the first thing, I'm gonna get into this VTOL. So now I am in the VTOL. It's like a Arma type. So can someone take me up on the VTOL? Just take off. So fly me around for. Show me a time. Show me a good time. Fly me over to the carrier while we wait for the Sparrow. So this is basically the camera that we set up so that when you're as an operator, you can get into any slot you want, and then RTS players can drive you around. Oh, you know what? I need to go. Like, let's go here. Let's go there. Now, technically, we need to spend probably a couple of hours to like a quarter of a day next week getting it so that way operators can opt into a repel. So then that way, if an RTS, we're not going to have it where the operators can order a repel, but not yet. Well, we will have it to where basically like an operator can see that an RTS player has a pending repel order coming up, and then they can press a key so that when everyone else repels, they lose control of their operator and they'll repel down as well. So, okay, now take me to the little bird, please. Oh, is that the little bird? Okay, so land me on the deck.
Yep.
So now I'm going to get out. Ooh, now we have to fix that. So right now, there's no get out slots that are sophisticated enough. Now I'm going to show the next thing we got to fix. So now I am on the skids, but you can see that we haven't had the time to fix the operator camera yet. So that's something that we need to do. You can take me off now. So pick me up. Take me to the base where we were previously. So this is something we got to fix. Is that we need to fix the camera for the operator on the skids and have it to where basically it works for the client and the host equally. So that way, like, people aren't at a disadvantage. You can see that the operators also have an activity log at the bottom left, so they can track what RTS players are doing, so you're not at a disadvantage of, like, who spent all that money, and then you can't see it because we're filtering it. So Derek did a beautiful job of setting all that up. I don't know if I can throw grenades up. Oh. That's kind of funny. That's kind of funny. You can throw abilities up here. I didn't test that. That was one of those things where it's like we were so worried about getting the mechanics and the systems in that every variation and permutation of gameplay has not been tested yet. And now we're getting to that point, the fun part, where we can basically get to that and test it and alliterate and change things as needed. So I guess drop me in the compound somewhere. Oh, actually drop me on the roof so we can demonstrate that pretty please. Sorry. So like, you can kind of start to see like my vision for how I want the game to play. In terms of like, oh, you know, that's the roof that's kind of weird. Is it me? This is the other issue. Is that me and Derek have to powwow sometime this week and fix this? Because that's just bloody weird. We have to kind of mirror Wildlands and make it to where it properly, like, has an aim node there. So then that way, like, you don't, when you look around, it only controls the torso and not the lower body. That's something we're going to be working on. But technically, that's something we have to squeeze in next week as like an auxiliary line items, technically before we work on the Ajax and the custom game options. So that's something that's going to come in last minute. So operator players, we didn't forget you. That's something that we're kind of trying to get the major helicopter stuff fixed. And we got the Apache in at the last hour, Friday night. Little more bug fixing for him. Little more bug fixing for like the minor little things here and there. And then Derek will be working on the skins and what I showed you guys previously, and then it'll be full steam ahead. You know, I haven't tried this. I'm gonna try it. Oh, that's weird. I gotta fix that. They're playing a stun animation when they land because they overhauled that. Can I get into this? Okay, good. You can't. I was gonna say you can't get into the Apache as a passenger. That'd be kind of funny. I was just curious what would happen. But so you can see, and then right. One more thing I want to show real fast before we conclude the stream. Do we have? Can you, whoever is right here, can you take me to a team of ground infantry? I want to show this really super fast. So take me to a team that can fill a little bird. You're amazing. You're a scholar. You're a saint. All right, land me here. Okay, now fill the little bird with the units, but leave one slot. So now I can't shoot, but I'm in the passenger seat. So now take us somewhere just to demonstrate the proof of concept. So now go to, I don't know, an active war zone. So now they're shooting, they're doing their thing. I'm a passenger. And like, you know, so let's say we land, land is here, fuck it. We're all gonna die. Oh God, never mind. Go somewhere else. Let's go. Can I mark? Oh, I can't mark in here. We gotta fix that. I can't control R, control V to let an operator RTS. Okay, land me here. Fuck it. Let's land here and let's go in for like Valhalla and I'll die horribly. So offload everyone. And then let's just push that area. Oh, are people coming too? We gotta, that's the other thing is that I have to get in with Derek and we gotta do a UI pass because my God, like we have been so focused on the RTS and like the helicopters that we need to fix all this visual jank. Oh, it crashed. Let me write that down. Oh, it was an ability system. So I'll log that. That was the perfect way of ending it then, I guess. So let me log that crash. Put that in the report channel. And you just keep in mind, I'm going to be releasing that out for everyone to play it. Let's switch over to the Q&A thing. There's going to be crashers. Again, it's super raw. It's super early. I'm releasing it right now to everyone. I'll release another update that fixes some of the balancing for the helicopters, but I'll at least give you guys something to start downloading because it's a couple gigs update. It's like 3 or 4 gigs. So it's on public playtest now. It's a 7.8 gigabyte update. So go ahead, start downloading that. Expect a patch in the next 20 minutes that adjusts some of the helicopter balancing for how they cater the high tier helicopters. But that way you guys can get into a game. And if you guys want to wait, get into the next update, you can. Otherwise, the next update will probably be like 500 megabytes. So it'll still be smaller. So we're going to conclude it there. Again, thank you guys so much for coming, seeing all the progress, leaving your feedback, sitting down and having this Q&A, this discussion with us. If you're watching us in the post, please consider coming to these. We love talking to you guys. And we wish more people would use their mics so we can have like a back and forth conversation, invite more people to talk on the mic. If you want to consider supporting our team further, check out our Patreon, check out our Discord pledge system. We have support packs on Steam. Anything and everything helps. And we greatly appreciate you guys, how patient you guys have been, and we're getting there. Slowly but surely, we're chipping away at pandemic, and we're getting all the core systems on that you guys expect. And I would say, like I was talking to people on Discord yesterday, 30 to 60 days, and it will be fucking close to what we have, everything that we have on Legacy. The vehicles will be in. The only thing we'll be missing at that point is doctrine, civilian evacuation, and dynamic civilian groups. And we might even get to the point where a quarter of the doctrines are in, half of the doctrines are in, and it's just literally just the window dressing here and there. Because doctrines is mostly just data. And once we get the ground vehicles in, a vast majority of doctrines is done. Now it's just gating them behind the doctrines. And gating some of their weapons behind the doctrine upgrades. And then it's just the airstrikes is really the biggest thing that adds some nuance to the game. And yes, we're going to be adding laser designators so that operators can call in airstrikes in operator mode and in RTS. So you won't have to have a radio man if you want to build like an operator RTS TPS hero that is like, it's going to be an expensive perk, but you'll be able to basically take that and build operators that are like your radio men that call in airstrikes. Or if you're on the ground, you'll be able to call in the Dragon gunship, napalm airstrikes, the thermobatic bomb, the Moab, and the what's it called? What's the strafing run we have with the, what was it called? I'm having a brain fart. The Thunderbolt? No. Fuck,
Oh,
yeah,
A-
that,
A10
sorry,
Warhawk.
the Warhawk. I'm having a brain fart, sorry. So yes, we are planning for that. Those are things that we're good. We're just kind of linearly hitting it as we go, just to conclude it. And again, we're gonna have a playtest in about 15 minutes. I'm gonna wait for the patch. You guys don't have to, but I want to kind of get those Apache Blackhawk balance changes in there so they know how to counter you, so it's not as easy. Didn't look that easy, but well, yeah. So we'll be in playtest room 1 for everyone that wants to come, and I'll be in there in a couple minutes myself.